Okay, we're going to pick up the screencast with Ulysses S. Grant and the end of the Civil War. As we kind of addressed previously, Abraham Lincoln was not very satisfied with many of his Union commanders during this war, and Ulysses S. Grant is going to quickly become one of Lincoln's favorite generals. He is very impressed with Grant, and Grant will, towards the end of the war, be named the commanding general of the U.S. Army. And Grant is a very aggressive leader, determined to defeat the South and do so quickly. And he's not afraid to use aggressive policies like total war to get what he wants. President Lincoln is up for re-election in the election of 1864. It's not very easy for a president to be re-elected during a time of national crisis. Doesn't look very good to be the leader of a country that's fighting against each other. So it's actually a little rocky for him during his presidential campaign. But with several victories for the Union, such as Sherman's victory in Atlanta, where he basically marched across southern states towards Georgia using total war tactics as he went, burning fields, attacking agriculture, to the point where the Confederates are running away from him. He does have a very outstanding victory in Atlanta, and this actually makes the Union Army look more certainly like they're going to win the war, and so it helps Abraham Lincoln's image. And so he will be elected to a second term, and there's kind of that mentality of don't swap horses midstream. It's a saying you may have heard of before that's referencing the fact that you don't want to change up your leadership in the middle of a war. You kind of want to continue with a consistent plan and goal for your country. Now, as you know, Lincoln will not complete this term because he will later be assassinated, and we'll talk about that in the next chapter. Okay, we're going to see slavery end in the United States even before the Civil War is over in terms of the states that are part of the Union. Basically, any state that was occupied by the U.S., meaning any rebel state that was captured, they were forced to free their slaves at this time. All the border states that had still been legalizing slavery, they were actually beginning to amend their state constitution to free their slaves as well. So pretty much no state in the Union is allowed to have slavery anymore. Abolitionists are, of course, super happy about this, but because they are fearful that slavery could be reestablished at the end of the war, Congress will pass the 13th Amendment, which prohibits slavery in the United States. Obviously, it will take some years for the states to ratify this amendment, but this is a big move of Congress on Congress's part to actually pass an amendment that would abolish slavery on the national level. Okay, the final surrender of the Confederacy is going to happen in Virginia at the Appomattox Courthouse, and that is spelled on the screen if you need help spelling that. Robert E. Lee is completely surrounded by Generals Grant and Sherman, and they force Lee into surrender. Now, the Confederacy is completely left destroyed after this war because of the North's total war tactics. The South is suffering with burned fields, damaged buildings, destroyed agriculture, destroyed railroads. The South is pretty much left in disaster. And so it's going to be time to figure out how will the South pick up, and how will the North allow the South to return back into the Union. And this is a time period we know as Reconstruction, which is what we're going to cover in Chapter 10. So write down any questions you have, and we'll talk about this tomorrow.